Hello everyone, today we'll be discussing a fundamental concept in Java known as overloading. This is a key feature that helps make code more readable and reusable. My name is Yash and presenting with me is Ethan. We are students of NMIMS Shirpur and we are pursuing D220 CSEDS. We'll be covering method overloading and constructor overloading and how they both contribute to what's known as compile time polymorphism. So what exactly is overloading? It's a way to implement polymorphism, especially compile time polymorphism. Polymorphism, as you know, means many forms. In Java, overloading allows us to use the same method name or constructor name, but with different behavior based on the input. The main benefit here is that it makes our code much cleaner. Instead of having to remember a dozen different method name like add two ints, add three ints, or add two doubles, we can just use add for all of them. This improves readability and reusability. Method overloading. Let's dive into method overloading first. The rule is simple. In a single class, you can have multiple methods with the same name as long as the parameter lists are different. This difference can be in the number of parameters, the data type of the parameters, or even the order of parameters. Why do we do this? Imagine you're building a calculator. You need to add numbers, but sometimes you have two numbers, sometimes three, and sometimes they are decimals. Without overloading, you would end up with messy method names. With overloading, you just use add for everything. Now let's take a look at this example. Here we have a class called math operations. The first method add takes two integers. The second method also takes integers, but this time it takes three. The number of parameters is different. The third method takes two doubles. Here the data type is different from the first method. In the main method, when we call op_add 5, 10, the compiler sees two integers and automatically links the call to the first method. When we call op.add 2.5, 3.7, it sees doubles and uses the third method. The compiler decides which method to call at compile time, which is why we call this compile time polymorphism. Now the next slide will be.
Hello, I am Ethan, and now let's talk about constructor overloading. The concept is exactly the same as method overloading, but it applies to constructors. A class can have multiple constructors, each with a different parameter list. This gives us flexibility when creating objects. A special feature here is the this keyword. To avoid writing the same initialization code over and over again, one constructor can call another constructor in the same class using this. However, there are strict rules. This must be the very first line in the constructor, and you must avoid creating a cyclic chain like constructor A calling constructor B, which calls constructor A again. Next. Here, let's take an example of constructor overloading. This The first constructor has no arguments. It uses this 0, unknown, and gender to call it the third constructor. The second constructor takes an ID and a name. It uses this ID name IT to also call the third constructor. The third constructor is the primary one. It actually sets the value to the instance variable. So no matter which constructor is called by the user, whether they provide no info, partial info, or full info, all logic flows through a single primary constructor. This keeps our code efficient and consistent. In the main method, you can see how each constructor calls creates an object which is different to the level of detail. Now we'll be discussing method overloading versus constructor overloading. Method overloading is used to define multiple behaviors for a method with different inputs, while constructor overloading provides multiple ways to initialize an object. Method overloading can have different return types, but not solely for overloading, while constructor overloading has no return type, because constructors are special. Methods can be overloaded in child classes through often confused with overriding. Constructors are not inherited, but child constructors can call parent constructors. Now, method overloading is called explicitly by the object, while constructor overloading is called automatically using the new keyword. To wrap things up, overloading is a powerful tool in Java. It allows multiple methods or constructors to share the same name. It's resolved during compile time, making it efficient. Most importantly, it promotes code clarity, flexibility, and reusability. which are essential for writing clean and maintainable code. Thank you for listening.